This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. This is the show that gives you the information you need to make your next move a great one. And on this episode, we're continuing our series on what makes a great real estate agent. And I'm sitting down with Renzo Naimo, the broker here at RE/MAX Ace Realty. And we're talking a little bit about a model that did you develop this, or is it something that we're just adopting here?
It's something that we're just adopting.
So this idea of an agent-centered brokerage as opposed to like a insider or owner-centric brokerage too. Model.
Business model.
Right. So an agent-centered brokerage as opposed to an owner-centric model. So real quick, what exactly... So before we get into like what it is, why don't you just kind of talk a little bit about how we got to this point, and a little bit about yourself and kind of, you know, what makes RE/MAX Ace Realty different?
Okay. So you're looking for history.
A brief history, just to kind of give some people some context.
All right. So my history starts quite a few years back. When I was more focused on a investment company. Then we started a small independent brokerage, basically to serve our needs. We're doing about 25 flips a year, and so we needed more flexibility from a brokerage. So we started that brokerage for the flexibility. We were a small independent, and we really just didn't have the resources like for learning and coaching and things like that you get from these bigger brand names. Mm-hmm. So that eventually turned into a new location, a bigger location, and us joining the RE/MAX family. So RE/MAX, what I really liked about them is that they're agent centric. Mm-hmm. What that means is there's mostly direct interaction between the folks at corporate. So just to give you an idea, main headquarters for RE/MAX is in Colorado. It's in a 12-story building, probably a couple 100,000 square feet. Say there's about 100 employees working there full-time. And as what really makes a good agent is the people that surround them, their support. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other things involved. Like it's good if their aptitude for learning is good, because it's always changing. This industry is always changing. But ultimately, if you've got the support of 100 people that work full time, you know, at a main headquarters like that, no other brokers can top that kind of support.
And often, so there's other brokerages that have support like that, but it's only really going towards, not necessarily going straight to the agents.
That's right. There are a lot of big brand brokerage names out there, but RE/MAX was the first one to be agent centric.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're brokerage or owner centric, I guess their focus, and those 100 people going to the main headquarters full time, their focus is on the owners and their profit margins, pretty much. Being agent centric, all of their coaching and tutorials and everything that they provide is revolves around the agent, mm-hmm. and just makes them more informed, better to serve clients.
Right. And agents that are better supported are going to, for the most part, be really good agents. So if an agent's not getting any support, they're not going to be able to really support their customers or their clients that well either.
True.
Yeah. So we have this direct interaction with corporate. What are some of the things that corporate provides to the agents in order to support them? I know we kind of hit some of them. We glanced over a couple of them, but kind of more specifically.
I can tell you a little bit about what RE/MAX has.
Okay.
So there's a portal. It's called Max Center, but like there's a whole RE/MAX university section that can train and teach an agent to do just about anything. It also trains and teaches them how to use all the other icons and technology inside of this Max Center, because there is like 4 or 5 tabs and 10 to 12 icons on each tab, and RE/MAX University is just one. Another thing it does is it has automated marketing. So it will just automatically pull from the MLS their listings, and they can set it up to automatically post on different social media platforms. And the fact that it's automated is it's like hardly any effort.
Right.
So the agent can focus on what really matters, their business and their clients. Mm-hmm. There's a multi-page website in there, a CRM, and then one nice thing that RE/MAX does is different is they send all of those leads that go to the RE/MAX website, the national website and international website. They send those leads directly to agents. There's a place in there you can pick 10 zip codes that you want to work in, and you'll get leads from them on a round-robin basis.
Now, there are sites out there where if someone inquires for, to speak to an agent or so, it's going to go to the highest, or basically it's going to go to whatever agent's paying the most, right?
Right.
So this is a little bit different because instead of you being sent to an agent that is just paying a lot to get those leads, this is actually going to real agents within your area, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting is, even from the top, they understand that relationships are most important. Mm-hmm. So their algorithm works like if a lead comes through for a certain zip code, that's the reason why there's a CRM attached. Mm-hmm. They're going to go through and look for all of the agents in that zip code to have that person's name in the CRM first. Mm-hmm. And they're going to try to connect them to that person.
Oh, that's good.
And if there is no one in that zip code with that name in their CRM, then it goes round robin. But that's how it works. It is very different. Yeah.
So a lot of agents, and this is, I'm not going to say this is good or bad, but just kind of the way things have become with when it comes to routing leads. A lot of times you'll see these big teams, and the team leader or the name on the sign kind of ends up just being a lead aggravator, would you say? And kind of is there just to funnel leads to the other agents on the team.
Right.
RE/MAX is a little bit different because the leads don't just go to whoever is the team leader that's paying the most and has the most resources. It's actually going back to the agents that actively are working with buyers and sellers.
Right. Yeah. So I would say the couple other big brands that might compare.
Yeah,
they're getting the leads. They're getting leads through corporate websites and stuff too. But I happen to know the difference. They go to insiders in a brokerage, and then from there, those insiders decide who they give them to and for what referral fees and whatnot. It's way different than an agent centric company. So,
yeah, and we were talking a little bit before. There's companies that definitely support agents. A lot of times, though, the agents are also working for like a middleman or like a team leader or so,
right.
And they're mainly focused on supporting the team leaders, not necessarily the individual agents in the company, too.
Correct, right. And it's whoever is getting those leads inside that brokerage, it's their discretion.
Yeah, so I've heard it said before that the broker doesn't really matter. It's the agent that you're working with that really matters. What are your thoughts on that? How much does that affect the deal, do you think?
I think it matters quite a bit, especially when an agent is just getting started and they're going to use the brokerage or the broker's resume at first. Like, for example, would you use a newer agent for an investment property if you were looking to get into investments at a brokerage where the broker is just starting to do investments and had to borrow money from, say, his parents to do his first investment? Or would you rather use a newer agent who's being supervised by a broker that's done it 100 times?
Mm-hmm.
You know, has flipped over 100 homes, has a whole bunch of rentals of all different types currently in his portfolio. I mean, where would you go?
Yeah, so the question is, if let's say you're getting into investing, do you want to work with someone who claims to be focused on investors and working with a lot of investors, but don't necessarily have that experience, or someone who has that experience behind them and has done and been involved in these deals personally, hands-on, or is directly around the people who have, right?
Right.
What about like the different brokers and how important the names are?
I mean, really, it's what's right for the client. What is a client looking for? Mm-hmm. I'd say 90% of people fall into two categories. They're either never going to use a generic no matter what, or if they do, they're expecting a discount. So, I mean, what is the ultimate goal? I would just be cautious with the limited services. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to sell something, just make sure that the brokerage that you go to is equipped to hold escrow for your sale. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I mean, I've heard it a million times. We can get a third party to hold it, a title company or something. But
well, real quick, let's just back up right there. So, just outside of the terms, just in case someone's not familiar, but basically what you're saying is when you're holding escrow for the sale, is you make an offer on a property, you're going to put money, you're going to put down a deposit.
Yeah, the buyer will.
And then the question is, who's actually holding that deposit when the buyer puts down that money?
Right.
And how important is it who holds that deposit, right?
Right. Yeah. So as a seller, mm-hmm. Listing a property for sale, you have a buyer puts an offer in with a sizable earnest money mm-hmm. check. Where do you want that deposit held? Mm-hmm. Who holds that escrow account? Who owns that escrow account that is being held at?
Like if I'm buying a house from you and I say, hey, Renzo, I'll pay you this much money. Let me just, get the financing and everything. I'm going to put down a deposit, let's say $10,000. You are going to care where that $10,000 is. So if I say it's $10,000 and I'm going to go give it to Frank over here, or I'm just going to hold on to the money, you're going to be kind of curious about that. You'll be like, well, hold on. If it's a deposit, you want to make sure you have some sort of control over that money and some sort of oversight on where that is, because if the buyer disappears or something happens, that's that money that you might be limited to.
Definitely. And I don't really see too much of a problem with a third party, but it never happens. I mean, mm-hmm. when a buyer's putting in an offer, they usually don't have a title company picked out, and you've got to fill that portion out of the agreement of sale of who's going to hold the escrow. Mm-hmm. And if your property's listed with a brokerage that isn't equipped to hold escrow, 99 times out of 100, mm-hmm. that listing agent is going to ask that buyer's agent to see if their broker will hold the escrow. So now you have your deposit for your house. This is your potential liquidated damages mm-hmm. being held at the buyer's agent's brokerage, right? Whose best interests are supposed to be for the buyer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just check. Just make sure. If you're going to go generic, chances are a brand is going to be full service.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's just one difference between the full service and the limited service.
Right.
Or, maybe there's an extra charge in there or some sort of fee that's going to show up in the settlement documents that maybe you weren't quite aware of when you started.
Yeah,
a lot of these limited services, they have the services, but then you end up having to pay more. Most of the time, things go pretty smoothly. You're using standard forms. You're using it's a pretty straightforward deal. It's something off the MLS. However, if it starts to veer away from that, maybe it's an off-market property, or maybe there's some other forms that need to be brought in there by a lawyer or so, that's where things can get kind of tricky too. So you have someone who is making an offer, and you're trying to sell your house, and then some things get a little bit outside the lines, and maybe you're not dealing with an actual realtor, someone who's a member of the association. So that's where those intricacies kind of come into play. I remember when I had a friend who was selling their property off market, but then I started asking him questions. I was like, well, where's the deposit? What kind of account is it in? Who's holding the deposit? Stuff like that.
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's where things really start getting tricky, and that's where these things really start to matter. And then you kind of go back and you're like, well, why do we do it this way? And you're like, oh, there's a reason why the seller should want their agent to hold the escrow money. And really, that's the whole point of, hiring a real estate agent, is making sure that things are done in a way that will protect, your side if a problem happens. It's so that things go smoothly and it feels like a lot. What you don't want to do is find out the hard way that
the agents are probably underpaid.
Yeah, you could have used an agent in that deal. So it's just one of those funny things where it's like when everything's going well, it seemes like they're getting paid a large amount of money.
Good agents are underpaid.
Right. Yeah. And then you find out once you try saving a couple bucks, it ends up costing you more money in the long run, or opens you up to the risk of costing more money in the long run.
In my experience in helping people that were thinking about doing it themselves, I'd say halfway through they tell me this is a lot. I would have never been able to do this myself, and that's from my experience. But
yeah, and just trying to explain to people, I mean, really that's what the agent's there. When you're transferring something like real estate, it's a little bit different. So the question isn't how to, they want to offer this much money, but they want to have a home inspection. So, okay, well, how do you juggle letting them in to have the home inspection, and do you take the house off the market? If you're going to take the house off the market, you have a deposit. So, the deposit is what allows you to take the house off the market. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
And there's a dozen ways you can do it.
And there's a dozen ways. And that's where an agent really kind of comes in, because you're like, well, all they really do is negotiate the deal. It's like, well, they don't just negotiate the deal, but they protect you throughout the course of a deal, because it's not like going to a store where you walk out with the computer or laptop. It's a process that you have to go with, and you want to make sure you're doing it right and protecting yourself throughout the process, right?
Right.
What are some of the other benefits for the real estate agents who are trying to consider their brokerage?
I see. So the agent centric model, that RE/MAX adopted, it revolves around the agent. It revolves around making them successful, high producing, and that's their focus. There's no other gimmicks. Compared to some other models that might be better for agents that don't want to sell real estate, that might rather just recruit to an MLM, then you find that there's, I call it the gym membership model. There's usually huge brokerages with hundreds of agents. And I say gym membership because the perfect gym member for a gym is someone that pays their dues every month and never goes.
It never shows up.
Right. So, that's the other model. But as an agent, I guess you have to decide what you want. If you want to sell real estate, then you need to surround yourself and be supported by people that are 100% focused on that.
Well, and that's kind of what it comes down to. Is basically it's an agent centric model for agents who actually want to sell real estate.
Right.
If you want to just recruit and kind of be in like a multi-level marketing situation, there might be another place for that. That wouldn't be so much the agent-centric model. If you just want to run a team or even, real estate investing, then yeah, that's going to make the difference. But for agents who want to actually sell real estate and buyers and sellers who want to work with an agent who is actually there to help them buy and sell real estate, it's good to know what kind of model and what kind of brokerage they're dealing with, right?
Right. And I'll say this, RE/MAX is known for doing transactions, all types, single family homes and multi-units, even commercial. You do want to have and find an agent with the experience, for the type of transaction you're trying to do. So,
great. Well, what's the best way that someone can get a hold of you or the office?
My direct number, 610-401-7575. Or if you want to call the office, it's 484-712-0009.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And hopefully this is helpful to people, whether they're an agent or someone that's looking to buy or sell in the future. So, hey, guys, if you have any questions, if you want to get a hold of Renzo or anyone here at the office, check out acerealtypa.com. If you've gotten anything from this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.
This episode is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty in Downingtown, PA. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, we have a real estate expert for you. Search for homes or contact an agent at acerealtypa.com.